Joe, yes, your question.
Mr. Naldo. Now, I mentioned earlier that the question 3 is supported by a broad coalition of citizens, of animal protection groups, of lawmakers, veterinarians. Now, meanwhile, dog track owners have named themselves the Massachusetts Animal Interest Coalition, suggesting that the No on 3 campaign is somehow supported by the animal protection community. Now, John, can you name a single animal protection group that has endorsed your position?
No. And the reason why is, unlike yourselves, I do not go out looking for sponsorship. Since 2000, random dog track kennel owners have been putting $2,000 away from their purses to battle this question because you said you weren't going nowhere, and you proved it, and you keep proving it. We don't go out looking for adoption groups. We don't even ask them to stand up first because we don't want to put them in the middle. We love what they do. They adopt our dogs out. If they want to support us, they'll do it in the ballot boxes. The Herald came out first. The Globe came out first. But I don't go around soliciting and saying, oh, I need your sponsorship. And the reason they wrote up that committee name is if you have a campaign committee, you have to file a name. And that was the one that they chose. But as far as out soliciting, and unlike you, that is your job, to solicit. Mine is to take care of my dogs. That's why I'm here tonight, because I'm trying to take care of my dogs. I work 12 to 16 hours a day taking care of my dogs, not soliciting or saying, oh, I want you to back up. Because all those animal shelters and all the vets that you listed, they've never treated any of my dogs. They've never handled any of my dogs. And if you are an NGA member, National Greyhound Association member, I'm not allowed, and it's illegal for me, to put a greyhound and say the MSPCA, because they are a kill shelter. I'm not allowed to do that, because they only have 7 days there. That's why we use the adoption groups, we leave them out of it, and we support ourselves.
Now, John says, you know, if you listen to him, it's almost like they picked this group name randomly out of the air. Now, we all know that's not true. They chose that name because they wanted to give the impression that animal protection groups support this when he admits they don't. Now, why would they do that? I mean, think for a moment. Why would a group of Greyhound kennel owners call themselves the Massachusetts Animal Interest Coalition? Why would they have lawn signs that say, save the dogs, vote no on 3? Now, John has accused me tonight of all sorts of stuff without any facts. Now, the few facts he has given, I've disputed because they're not true. But while he sits up here and accuses me of this, he's running a campaign called the Massachusetts Animal Interest Coalition when he acknowledges that he's not actually supported by any animal protection groups. Now, the final thing, you know, I'm certainly not going to speak for our endorsers, but my sense has been that they're not endorsing this because we went to them and said, please sponsor us in some way. They're endorsing this because they're proud to endorse this, because they know that this industry is cruel and inhumane. It's time for this industry to go, and they want to see a better Massachusetts. They believe that Massachusetts is better than this. That's why the MSPCA supports this. That's why Dakin supports this. That's why every major shelter in the state endorses this. And quite frankly, I'm proud to have their support.
Okay. Mr. O'Donnell.
Mr. Theil, as I said earlier in the night, you've been living off my industry for over 8 years through donations, through different groups such as Grade 2K Education Fund, Committee to Protect Dogs, National Coalition Against Expanded Gambling, and also as a federal lobbyist now. Your income depends solely on how bad you portray mine. You also speak at animal rights symposiums about legislation, because that is your expertise. You've been dealing with that since 1999 in Oregon. It is common knowledge that in the animal rights profession, ballot questions are the #1 profit maker. They result in the highest returns for donations, and the better thing is they get free volunteers. This is the profession you chose.
It's got to be a question.
Why should the public believe your claims are nothing more than a profit-driven agenda for you and your co-sponsors?
Well, thanks for your question, John. First of all, I'm not a federal lobbyist. Second, John mentioned a number of nonprofit groups like the Great UK USA Education Fund and the Committee to Protect Dogs and the National Coalition Against Gambling Expansion. You're right, I do sit on the boards of some of those organizations, and I've never received a dime from any of them. Now, I receive a meager salary for my work with Great UK USA. I'd be willing to bet that I've made in the past 6 years what you probably made this year. But you know what? This election isn't really about me. Now, people use arguments like this when they don't want to debate the facts. Now, John could come up here tonight and he could say I'm not telling the truth about the injuries the dogs suffer. He could come up here and say that I'm not telling the truth about confinement, but he's not doing that, because those are the facts. The facts are greyhounds are enduring lives of terrible confinement, they're suffering serious injuries, and when campaigns reach to such a personal level, it's because they don't have anything left. So I believe that voters deserve a debate based on the facts. I'm committed to a debate based on the facts, and that's why I'm here tonight.
John, you have 2 minutes.
Carey, you're talking about personal. You're trying to take my job away, my livelihood, put my family in financial crisis, and you got the gall to sit here and say personal attacks. That is what you do. What I stated there is nothing wrong with what I stated. When you talk about, meager salaries and whatever, the MSPCA grossed over $50 million last year. They had endowments of over $40 million. People might call different people nonprofits. It doesn't mean it isn't business driven. The same as you've taken in probably about $400,000 on this campaign. It might be nonprofit. It's still business driven. You make your money off of these nonprofits. And if you really told the truth about the Greyhound industry, donations would be down. We wouldn't be sitting here with a ballot question, and you'd be looking for a job. But the only way you can get donations is to lie about my industry, portray us in the worst possible thing, and your 2 co-sponsors help write the rules that I run under. It's ironic, and you have the gall to say personal. It doesn't get much more personal.
Okay, I think we're on the last round of questions. Am I wrong, or?
That was it.
That was round 4?
He might have one more.
I've only asked 3, right?
Yes, we have one more. You go first.
Right.
So I think we're on the 4th round.
Yes.
And you each get 1, and then
Okay.
2.5 minutes to close the argument.
So we both get one more question?
You both get one more question.
Okay.
When I mean around, I mean you get a question, then you get to close.
Okay.